Welcome back to Fortitude, folks. I'm your co-host, J.W. Wilson, and across the desk today is my other co-host, or my co-host, not other, is Brenton Payne.
We've never done this before, looking at each other. We typically sit on the same side, so...
Well, we have two special guests that required some room and some frontage space, if you will.
I had the best pizza the other night at this place. Yeah.
What was the place called?
De Luca, and I believe our guests own that restaurant, correct?
Is that correct?
I'd love to take credit, but...
It's all right.
This was restaurant week. We had Bunnell, the Alex Snodgrass, and this now.
Mm-hmm. Well, Brenton, we are blessed to have the greatness of Angelique and Mike De Luca, not of De Luca pizza fame.
Oh, I like that applause. I wish I could travel with that everywhere I go.
Yeah, I have it at my house.
That's very validating.
Let's begin with Angelique. Angelique, a Fort Worth gal. She went to Southwest High School, correct?
I did.
You were a child actor in such things as the Power Rangers, correct?
Not child. I was.
Well, I guess you weren't a child, but you were younger, a younger version of you.
I was. Oh gosh, I was young. I was a baby.
How old?
20s.
Fair enough. We'll accept that. You and some show called, I actually looked this up, Pensacola Wings of Gold.
Yes.
It's like a Top Gun series.
I know what it is.
Yes.
Oh, you do? Okay.
That was a lot of fun.
I'm familiar with child actors too, because we talked about JW had a conservatorship thing against me for some period of time, but I've broken out of it with the crack legal
Freeman?
team
Oh,
here.
got it.
Spread your wings. Spread your wings, man.
I was not a child actor. It was, believe it or not, it was my mother's idea for me to move out to LA. And you want to know why?
Why?
Because she said I was partying too much here in Fort Worth.
What? At Southwest High School in the early 90s? You got to be kidding me.
What a fix. Moved to LA.
And 1 year at Arlington Heights.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably, well, no, I take that back. They were both pretty.
So she was going to fix you by sending you to LA.
Yes.
Where parties don't exist.
Yeah, we knew we knew nothing, obviously. We were just your good old small town Fort Worth folk that
So
knew
how
nothing
did that,
about Hollywood.
Did you just go out there? Like, I mean, it was just...
I did. It was funny because we had just had a hailstorm here in Fort Worth, and I think I was 21, and it totaled my car.
A couple years ago, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, just a couple years ago. And it totaled my car. So my mom, she was driving me to work, and she threw this supposedly grand idea that she had that she thought I should move out to LA and try to pursue the acting career. And because we'd played around with it with, Walker, Texas Ranger here.
Oh, yeah.
And also Bottle Rocket, which I'll tell you the full circle.
Okay.
Down the line, I think we're going to kind of get to that. But anyways, so she just thought it'd be great because I was, I guess going out too much here in Fort Worth.
Because the movies are a very sober environment, correct, Mike?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I figured it's straight as can be.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We did not know.
Very strict.
Yeah. So she said, she goes, look, you will have every, I will help you. I think you should do this. Just try it for 1 year, just 1 year. And if you don't like it, you can come home. And I was like, there is no way I want to move out to LA. I was about to move out to the country here with one of my best friends. This big city was just no. And then Hollywood, it was such a foreign thought.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. But, I thought about it over about a 2-3 month span, asked everybody I knew, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? And finally I just thought, okay, you know what? I'm 21. And if I don't do this, I will regret this for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. It was just one of those things that you just knew, especially for my mom to be supporting me in every way. Mm-hmm. Because when most young children, or kids say, hey, I want to move out to LA, their parents are like, are you effing crazy?
Yeah.
No way. But here I was, my mom's like, go, go, go. So sure enough, it's funny because three years into it, she calls me crying, come home, I miss you. I'm like, no. I said, I am finishing what you started.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then sure enough, ended up living there for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's where you met this gentleman?
This is where I met my amazing husband.
Husband.
Why he's my husband. Yeah. It's funny. We were at the at a football game recently, and this lady walks up and says, "This is my husband." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love that." And Mike was like, "Yeah, that's kind of cool." So,
how'd you get out there, Mike? Can we ask that?
Yeah. So I grew up in New York, and I went to film school at NYU, and I couldn't wait to get out to LA because it's really the hub of
Sure.
production for TV and film. So I did my time in New York, and then just got shipped out by my first job to LA.
And so you were there before you.
Yeah, I was there. I've been there since 89, 90.
Okay. Yeah.
Mike's 9 years. Yeah, he's 9 years older than I am.
So I'm in my early 30s, obviously.
Beautiful. Okay.
But of course, he went out there. He went out there, like with kind of the bird in his hands. He went out there with already a career. I went out there and I knew nobody.
No,
I did not know anybody.
The only analogy that I liken it to is Axl Rose coming off that bus in that Guns N' Roses video. Or I don't know if it was him
Welcome
or the
to the
girl.
Jungle.
The Welcome to the Jungle. It's just this is what I picture.
That's
all these
awesome.
people who go out to LA, they just come off that bus and they're like, what's about to happen with my life? This is crazy.
Well, Mike, before we get to you,
crazy.
Angelique, your mom, Donna, is a cancer survivor. That's kind of a really cool part of your life story.
Yes,
Very cool.
yes.
The woman that pushed you out of the house to LA.
That pushed me.
And-
Yeah. So, gosh, I still can't really wrap my head around this because I think we are literally witnessing a miracle, so to speak. But in March, I believe it was, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer from her neck all the way down to her organs and her, from pelvic all the way up. I mean, you could literally feel and see the knot in her swollen lymph nodes in her neck. And I saw it. I saw it on the computer. It was everywhere. And, it changed. I mean, it rocked our world.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, when we just, kind of automatically just thought, okay, this is how she's going to pass. And so, thankfully, she's got a really amazing doctor here in Fort Worth, and they suggested immunotherapy. And but my mom, being the probably one of the strongest women I've ever known in my life, she just thought, okay, we cried, and then she goes, okay, I have cancer, but we're not going to let this take us down at all. We're not going to go down this road. And so she did everything in the book that I think everybody should, and what she calls now her toolbox. But she started doing lots of forgiveness. She started forgiving a lot of people in her life. She started asking for forgiveness because, as we know, when that negative energy is in your body, it can also help feed the cancer. And so she just went through a really, major cleanse that way. Lots of prayers. We obviously had lots of friends and family praying for her, the ones that knew. And then she did this, she would sit on this mat that's called the Beamer mat. And it actually was taken off market because it was known to cure cancer. But she would sit on it. And between all her reading, between the combination from immunotherapy to everything to, a healing spiritual aspect, the cancer's gone.
Yeah, that's an amazing story.
The cancer is gone.
So it's incredible, and congrats. In
one
I'm sorry,
year.
I had to do the applause.
Amen.
Yeah.
And on the other side,
Amen.
of your
Blessing.
life is your dad, Kelly Pruitt. He's a really famous Western painter. I know his work real well.
Yes.
That's another really cool tangent to your life.
I know. It's fun. He was this tall, good-looking Western artist, and he had an exhibit at the Fort Worth Stock Show back in the 60s. And my granddaddy, he was the manager over the exhibit for the stock show for probably about a decade. And so my mom and her brothers and sisters, they would always work, during the show and whatnot. And so she was walking down the aisle with a friend and she spotted him. She was like, "Who is that man?"
Wow.
And that was it. I mean,
Nice.
she
Did
was
they
like,
sell hot tubs at the exhibit hall at that time, or was that later on?
hot tubs in
Yeah,
the 60s?
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I don't know.
It's safe to say they probably did.
I was
Yes, they
not
always
there.
do.
I'm talking about the randomness of the stuff in there. And then this fine art,
It is.
it's like, it's crazy that you have
yes.
all of that.
So anyways, they got married, and more or less, he was your typical, artist, and she kind of knew nothing, but she was a very smart woman. She would, in college, she would go to bed reading the dictionary every night. So she, she's really just knew the words. And coming from, my granddaddy also worked for the Star Telegram, and he also owned Texas Patios. So business definitely ran in our family. So she knew the business side, and she kind of studied at his feet growing up, obviously. And more or less, she made Kelly famous. And they traveled around the world. They had the Spanish Steps Gallery in Taos, New Mexico. And they had their ranch in Presidio. So I was actually born in Alpine.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's quite a claim.
Very proud.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then she had this idea that they needed to start casting as bronzes. And it was either New York. She threw out New York, I think 3 different places. Can't remember the third, but the other one was Rome. He goes, okay, let's go to Rome. So then they had a boundary in Rome. And so they would travel between Taos, Presidio, and Rome. And she just pretty much grew his career from shows. And he also, believe it or not, taught Elizabeth Taylor's daughter how to paint when they were living in Rome. One time they happened to be there at the same time. And
So she
just
was
cool
like
stuff.
to him what your mom was to you on getting out to LA.
No,
huh?
that's why she was like, I mean, she was my biggest fan. And she was the one who would sign me up to, go on castings. She actually got me my first big audition with Robert Rodriguez down in Austin.
Oh, yeah.
And believe it or not, I did get a couple of callbacks for his movie. And it was so fun because I got to die in front of him.
Which one? The vampire one?
No.
Desperado or Dust Till Dawn?
No, it was before that.
Maybe it was Desperado.
Oh, wow.
No, not Desperado.
Mariachi, the first one?
No.
Oh, yeah, that one's...
I think it was it Jessica Alba in one of those?
Oh, Sin City?
Sin City.
Okay.
It was Sin City.
Oh, wow.
I got to audition for Sin
It would
City.
be
That's
really
what it was.
great if you guys had an argument on the show. That would be a first for us. So just
Give it
if you-
time.
Mike and
if
I-
you give it enough,
well,
like
good.
right around the 40-minute mark.
Okay,
I could say Space Kids, Mike. That would really do something.
We almost did when he spit out our street.
Angelique's paranoid about like people knowing where we are.
Sure.
Of course.
As if anyone cares or is going to show up.
Okay, let me tell you something. Yes, it does matter because when we first moved here, we got some letter from somebody trying to get a hold of him. I'm like, how did they even? I'm like,
Someone
what?
I owed money to.
That's not
No, I'm just
true.
Is that why you escaped to Fort Worth? And everything's clear now.
It's
You're
just
coming
like-
out again.
It's like the witness protection program.
Well, not anymore.
I know, I just blew my cover.
All 5 of our followers. I'm going to bust you.
Yeah. So
I am
speaking,
paranoid. I see all the cars slowing down in front of our house. I'm like, who is that? What are they doing?
I'm a
It could
fellow
be-
I don't like
paranoia
what's going
person.
on.
I
it could be for
understand.
Boschini. Boschini's got some haters these days. He's a great human being, a friend of mine, but he gets, he's had a tough deal with the pandemic.
Oh,
Luckily,
good
he's
job.
got a gate. I'm
It
like, we're
was
going to get
still
a gate.
ambiguous and anonymous where they lived, but
So-
now you throw the exact
we're
location
all in
of
the same boat now.
Leave it to
Okay,
J-Dub.
now I'm going to pick an argument with you and Mike.
Good.
It's been great living with the Bushinis the whole time we've been here. We obviously, we all
Yes,
share the
yes.
same house, and that's where we are.
Yeah, it's an
Beautiful,
AFS type program, right? For LA people to come in and show the culture of LA to
And it's
the
great that they
chancellor.
do that to the
Our editor
underprivileged.
can fix that, surely.
For the
So-
underprivileged movie executives in
Look,
town.
he's trying to get
So
on with
Angelique,
it.
so you meet this guy to your left.
Yes.
He was a kid from Brooklyn, as he already
Tough kid.
tough kid from yeah. You grew up loving comic books. You became a Trekkie, which is cool because those are Trekkies.
Real tough. I'm a real tough kid.
It's okay. But
Comic book geek,
your mom was a German Jew. She survived World War II in Germany.
Right.
She wasn't in the Holocaust, but she was in Germany and somehow survived that, which is obviously fantastic. Your career in the show business began in '86 with an internship at New Line Cinema. Some guy, we know who this is, but Robert Shea was your mentor at the time.
Right.
Still close with Robert?
Yeah. We have lunch occasionally, but it's slowed down to a trickle. Just life took us in different directions, so
Surely.
we text occasionally, but we stay in touch.
Was it watching Star Trek where you're like, I got to do this? Like, I love
Actually,
this show so much, I got to do this.
It was in syndication in New York and it was on like twice a day. But it was more old movies on old TV stations. There was no VHS obviously back then in the 70s. So it was seeing old movies on TV that kind of, made me fall in love with the medium.
Yeah. And you really just did know that you wanted to do it.
Since as far back as I can remember.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like the making of it. Like typically when you're watching that stuff, you're kind of like, it's cool. I like to see it.
So in New York they had King Kong. For some reason, King Kong was the holiday Thanksgiving movie on Sunday after the Thursday.
Yes.
Every weekend, every year that weekend, they'd run King Kong on Channel 9 or Channel 11.
Black and white?
The black and white 1933
Yeah.
original. And, when you're little, like when you're 3 or 4, you think it's a documentary, like a real giant gorilla must have attacked the Empire State Building.
It's not.
And then you get a little old. It's not. I'm sorry to say. And then you get a little older and you see, wow, what are the special effects? Like, how did they do that? And the minute you start asking how they did it, you're hooked for life on
yeah,
movies.
but where do you go? I mean, obviously you're New York. That's great because there's probably more people to answer that. But I would think around here, you're a kid and you're asking those questions like, I don't know. Why don't you go play outside with your friends? Like I have no idea how they make this.
Well, the great thing about now is filmmaking tools are so affordable. Like now kids are making movies on their iPhones and going to Sundance with it.
Yeah.
It's a lot more.
It's the same with podcasting tools.
That's right. Well, everybody, it's like screenwriting. Everybody thinks they can do it, but it's still an art. What you guys do is still an art.
Yes.
Well,
Y'all,
thank you.
it was Young Guns for me.
Oh, Young
Oh,
Guns.
really?
Okay.
The peyote
Remember
scene?
China Doll? The China was it what was her name? China?
Did you see the size of that chicken?
She was Kiefer Sutherland's love interest. I so wanted to be her, and I just thought I have to be in a Western
we all
movie
did,
someday.
Angelique. We all did.
By the way,
It's
that
crazy.
writer, John Fusco, NYU grad, also.
Okay.
NYU alumni. Like I am.
But was yours Westerns too? I mean, King Kong you mentioned, but
Loved it all. I loved it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Growing up, I mean, The Searchers is my favorite Western of all time until Unforgiven, and then they're both right up there.
Yeah. So
He has he's speaking of Westerns, he's trying to get one made now on the Chisholm Trail.
Well, when I was a producer, I really wanted to develop a mini series about the Chisholm Trail and the history and really show because cowboys were so young in that era, like 14, 15, 16, and to go on these long cattle drives and go into these towns, on the way up to Texas from where they were coming from with the cattle. No one's done it.
Yeah.
Period authentic. But then I left producing. So
yeah. It's funny you say about the young cowboys because I was at the rodeo back before the new, and you're in the like stage area, like the bar area with the bands, and I saw these young guys with these jackets and stuff, and I was like,
they're
what's
kids.
I know. I was like, what's the deal? Are you allowed to be in here? And he's like, I just rode in that thing. I was like, what? You rode in it? Like, you don't think of cowboys being that young.
But can you imagine back in the day in the 19th century, they would just go on these long cattle drives, and it's a great coming of age story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Mike, you're with New Line Cinema doing all these things, and you do so well, they make you president of the company at age 27. What's that feel like?
Wow, all your facts are correct. I can't believe it.
I'm going by what the Wikipedia tells me.
Right.
So.
Oh my God. It felt great. It felt like being given the keys to like a Ferrari when you're 17 years old. It was fabulous. It was really fantastic.
So how long into it? I mean, we'll get back into more of this, but I want to know how you guys met and like what the movie name game happened at that like first date or whatever. Like I got to think.
So one of my best friends, one of my guy best friends, Riley Smith, he's an actor, great actor. Y'all should definitely look him up.
What's he been in?
Oh my gosh.
He was on, wasn't he on 24 for a while?
Yes, he was on 24.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
He's done, he's just, his career
on
just
Nashville for a
keeps
while.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, his career just keeps going.
Yeah.
But anyways, he's also a musician too. But anyway, so Riley was working on one of Mike's pilots that he was executive producer on, right?
Yeah.
At that time. And so they were on location. And I remember Riley coming back.
We just hit it off. Yeah, we started hanging out.
Can I
they
do
really
a
got
brief
close.
So executive producer between that and producer, like difference there.
It means different things in TV than it does in film. In TV, it's an actual credit for an actual role where you're kind of putting the show together. Sometimes the writer, creator gets an executive producer credit. In movies, it can be a ceremonial credit. In movies, the producer, the actual produced by, carries a lot of meaning. It's kind of the reverse in television.
But
It's the funders, right? If you or investing in a movie, you're a producer, correct?
No.
You can be. Yeah, I mean,
Yes, I know.
It's like an industry joke. Like producer, it means so much. It's so different. You know, the different definitions.
But it sounds like on TV, you were expected to be on set, where maybe a producer, executive producer, is not
producers.
the case.
There are some producers in movies, but much less executive producers you never see on set.
Yeah.
It really depends.
Okay. Sorry. Back to Riley Smith.
No worries. So anyway, so they had gotten done filming, and he calls me one night. It was a Friday night. And he said, "Hey," he goes, I became really good friends with one of the executive producers on my show, and he's gonna cook an Italian dinner tonight. And he said I can invite a handful of friends. So you want to come? And I was like, sure. And sure enough, we all met at his house, and then headed up to his bachelor pad on the top of Sunset Plaza.
Such a great
And
bachelor
that
pad.
Italian
was-
food, that's where the DeLuca concept for the restaurant on Hewlin began.
Absolutely. But I thought, you know what would make it great if we added a C. If we added another C to my name, that would put it over the
be
top.
so Italian.
Yeah.
It would take all the
It's just
Brooklyn out of it. It
extra
would just,
Italian.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather be part of the Dean and DeLuca.
Oh God.
Right.
Yes.
You guys came to town around the time of that sponsorship. Like that
Yes.
was,
Oh, no.
I thought that
Oh,
was
no.
part
I
of
thought,
it too.
How can we do this and get in to see the
Yeah.
tournament?
So,
Sponsorship.
Mike, your debut film was a legend, Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, correct?
I'm shocked I was allowed to work again after that.
How does one find their way into Leatherface? I mean, that in itself is incredible.
You know, we were like an opportunistic company, so the rights were available. So, you know, like occasionally you'll see a new Halloween or a new Friday. Like sometimes these rights, because of the way the original films were put together, are available, and opportunistic companies snap them up. So I forgot how, but we ended up with the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And the companies go with like, well, there's this huge generation of kids who saw the first Halloween, like it was done. They'll go back and see it. Okay, back to the dinner though. Like we barely got to you guys meeting. So you go to meet this guy.
Yeah, well, it was just like a group of friends, so it wasn't like a date or anything. And we had cooked this huge Italian dinner. We hung out for a little bit, and then we went out to Hyde, which was the hip club at the time where everybody went. And so
It's like a dance club or just like
it's a
chill club.
It's drink your ass off. And
with a
stand
tiny,
tightly packed
it
together.
was a very small
really
place,
Really
but
so lovely.
it was the hot place. So
because nothing's better than sweating your ass off at 2 a.m. when the lights come on.
On a first date. Yeah, why not?
Drinking, stumbling out to the ballet.
No, come on.
yeah,
After like eating a half a pound of pasta.
Yeah, with a lot of lot of garlic.
I don't know what I was thinking back in those days. In LA, which is really health conscious, like serving up these giant carby meals, I was definitely a man out of place and out of time.
Yeah.
You're Italian though.
Yeah.
He eats pasta every day.
I furthered a cultural stereotype.
Yeah.
I feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it went off well, right?
I should have at least been
Well,
serving
no, I mean,
gluten-free pasta.
We weren't necessarily being set up this night, but I remember the next day Riley texting me or calling me or something saying, "Hey, so Mike really likes you and would like to take you out." And I was like, he didn't even know me. I'm like, that's crazy. He goes, well, he's so sweet, Angelique. And I'm like, all right. He seemed really nice anyway.
Didn't he just write producer, New Line Cinema? Like what? Like don't think on this.
No, but you don't understand. Living in Hollywood, you get burned really fast when you have people saying that they are somebody and they're not.
Yeah.
So you just kind of, I don't know, and then living there, it's just, you just kind of realize they're.
That's because we're here today to show that Mike is not actually a producer, but the owner of a restaurant called DeLuca on Hewlin Street.
I was trying to hide it.
You were so funny.
God, DeLuca Pizza is going to be
secret
super
is
happy
out.
on this
I
show.
know, right?
We love DeLuca.
Tell
Yes.
me about
Right.
it.
Yeah.
No, but we were actually friends first.
That place does fuck up my plan. My plan was
okay.
to eventually have my own restaurant here
you
in
will.
retirement.
No.
But
Before
now
you
they
say
took the
that,
name.
Mike,
Like,
let me know and all.
That's not true.
We'll just do that next time, okay?
No. You can still do your restaurant.
Yeah. Just one C.
Our over
Just
under on
call
the
it one
F word
C.
was about
Yeah.
5, so
Yeah.
we're still
Yeah.
got a few to go. We're good.
So you said it was like a thing. You guys liked each other and then went out again?
Yeah, we just actually hung out, and believe it or not, Mike had a girlfriend, kind of. Not he wasn't that into
I
her,
was
obviously.
transitioning.
He was transitioning.
Yeah.
But he actually set me up on my very first blind date, you guys. And then he told me, he goes, I'm setting you up, but I hope you don't like him.
Yeah.
Oh,
isn't that
wow.
isn't
He
that a
likes
cool
me.
line?
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
What you're
because
always
he
trying to do
likes
is
me.
pave the way. When you're in transition, you're always trying to set up the next chapter
Yeah.
as you're closing the book on the
Was the guy
preceding
terrible
chapter.
looking? Possibly
Very handsome guy.
No, he was
very,
cute.
very
He was
handsome
cute.
guy.
He
Very
just
risky.
wasn't. I don't
Very
know. He
risky
just was
move.
cute. No, yeah. But anyways, like I said, Mike and I, we were friends first, and it just kind of organically happened. And
Yeah.
after getting to know him, which a lot of people, I think that was one thing that really was attractive to me about him, is that he was a very famous Hollywood producer, but you would never know it because he was so humble.
Yeah.
And that was so refreshing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
So refreshing. And then just getting to know him, he's got the biggest heart and whatnot. And, it was kind of hard. At the time, he was Republican. He is not anymore. That's a whole nother story, which
We
we
don't
will
talk about
not.
that stuff on
Which
this
we
show.
will not
Get the buzzer
get
ready.
into.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my gosh. I'm in LA and I've met a Republican. This is amazing. This is so, and he's so
I was
nice and
radicalized
he's
by
smart.
9/11.
But
Yeah.
no, but also,
be a
he's,
hawk.
I will say, and I tell everybody this, he's one of the most brilliant men I've ever known in my life, because he's very, very smart.
You hit
and
the
he's-
applause button.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
guess.
Oh,
Thank you.
Did
Thanks,
you
everybody.
really just ask for
Mike
that?
De Luca.
Oh my gosh.
So, if I could real quick go through a couple of things that Mike's done at New Line that proceeded on to DreamWorks, but at New Line, you did the movie Seven. These are a couple of many, but Seven, Friday, a lot of guys' favorites, Boogie Nights, Austin Powers, Rush Hour, American History X, Dumb and Dumber,
Low.
and Blow, Transformers. I mean, this is incredible.
So I
I
bought
am
the
Sam.
Transformers was a pitch I bought at DreamWorks.
Okay.
And then I was gone from DreamWorks by the time they produced that movie.
DreamWorks was 2001.
It was after New Line. It was
Okay.
my job after New
Gotcha.
Line.
So is that how it works? Like, are you going and grabbing that content and deciding to make it, or does somebody come to you and say, "Hey, would you do this?" Or is it kind of a combination?
Both. Yeah. So we get pitched a lot of stuff and get submitted a lot of stuff, and then when you work at a studio, you're kind of the filter, and you try to choose, what you think will be commercial.
Well, and I can ask both of you guys this. Yeah, I mean, what is it with that decision? I mean, does something just happen where you're like, this thing jumped out at me, like it's hitting me where I am in my life, like there's this emotional appeal, but also, do you start envisioning the actors too, almost like I can see this person in this role and that type of thing?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Speaking of that.
You may speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Okay. And
She was raising her
okay,
hand.
And you guys, I want you to know I am taking full on credit for this. Full on credit for this. So, okay. 50 Shades of Grey.
We're getting there. Don't worry.
You ready? Okay. Hold on. Jamie Dornan. He has this job because of me.
Please explain.
Okay. So it was between him. No, it was
We had originally cast Charlie Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam.
And then Charlie Hunnam decided he didn't want to do it, and he needed a new Christian Grey.
He wasn't. No. He hadn't really decided that he wasn't going to do it at that time. He was kind of in
was
this.
still debating.
He was debating, and
Was he nervous? It was a nervous
He
thing.
just, in all honesty, he just decided creatively he wanted to do
He
something
wasn't into
else.
it.
Yeah,
he just wasn't into it, and so I had already read the books, and I was like, I'm sorry, but he's not Christian Grey. He is not Christian
You
Grey.
had that
He's
vision in your mind.
It's just one of those instinct type intuitions or something, or I just had this picture, when you read a book, you have a picture of the characters because you know you can't see them. But I was like, this is not Christian Grey. There's no way this is not going to
Yeah.
work. And I remember us sitting in Hawaii, and Mike,
As one does.
Yeah.
shut up. Oh my God. We were sitting in Hawaii, and he gets the call that he has to fly back to LA. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is our family vacation. He goes, I have to go. It's about casting. And I was like, Mike, Charlie's not the person. I said, you tell Donna he is not the person. Donna Langley, who runs Universal, who's one of his best friends, and I know her too. And I'm like, he's not it. He's not it. He goes, okay, I hear you. He goes, well, I was looking at this one, guy, and he pulls up his phone and he pulls up Jamie Dornan's picture, like half naked.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
like
he's a model.
Calvin
He wasn't
Klein,
just laying
Calvin
around
Klein,
half naked.
Calvin
He's a
Klein
professional
underwear.
model, for God's
Yeah.
sakes.
And granted, yes, that was the picture I saw, but I looked at him and just intuitively, I was like, He's Christian Grey.
Yeah.
He's it. He's it. He's it.
And Jamie was performing in this great series with Gillian Anderson, and I'm blanking on the name right now.
X-Files?
No, it was on Netflix. It was a serial killer drama. She played a British person. It was on Netflix, and I'm just blanking on the title of it. But he had something about him that seemed like it would be perfect for it.
But sure enough, like a month later, it was still Charlie Charlie. I'm like, Mike, it is not. It is Jamie Dornan.
Why was it? Why did they go back to that?
Get Jamie.
Charlie hadn't left yet.
Okay.
So it was still Charlie.
Yeah.
And he came in red, I guess, and blew everybody's socks off. And
Mike,
this is the guy.
We'll give her a little.
We got to give her up. Yeah. Give it up.
Thank you.
So before we move on to current stuff, and DreamWorks happened in 2001. DreamWorks, you did a couple films. One's called Old School and Anchorman that have done quite well in the world. Us gentlemen love these movies.
Most quotable movies.
Yes,
Anchorman
absolutely.
Especially.
After DreamWorks, you started Michael De Luca Productions, which you still have, right?
No, I had to withdraw from the second version of it to go take the job at MGM.
MGM happened in the year 2020. You became named as the chairman of MGM, correct?
Right.
So then, there's a lot of things happening in your life. You were nominated in 2010. This is going back a little bit for 3 Best Picture Oscars: Social Network, Captain Phillips, and Moneyball. Actually, one of our guests a few weeks ago is Kirk Sarlos, TCU's baseball coach, who was part of the Billy Bean team in Moneyball, which is kind of interesting.
He said that as a coach, he was super competitive. Like in games and in practices, he'd be like on the treadmill, like just looking at stats. He wouldn't even be out there with that.
Absolutely.
Was that a fun movie to make?
It was so much fun.
It was.
Yeah. It was great getting to know Billy and all the folks at Major League Baseball, because normally in my line of work, you don't intersect with those kind of people. So it was a wonderful. I'm a big Yankees fan and grew up with, that was my team. Mm-hmm. But we got to shoot, in baseball stadiums, and we shot at Fenway, and it just was like a neat thing. To be around those guys.
50 Shades of Grey, we just talked about. 2015 film is the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. Is that still the case?
Is it? I thought The Passion might be.
Wait, who's?
Passion
is that
Mel
Gibson's movie?
Mel Gibson.
I thought that might have this thing. That might
much different films for sure.
But rated R.
Yes.
Both.
Do you know
both
that
starring sexy guys with facial hair?
Right. So, what do you think?
Thank you, Mike. You are working for the applause, and you will receive it every time, my friends.
It's Pavlovian at this point.
What's been the hardest movie you've ever had to make?
Probably the movie that got me fired from New Line. This Warren Beatty infidelity comedy called Town and Country was just like a runaway train, and no matter what we did to fix it, it just got worse and worse, and then it was just this disaster that blew up when it was finally. I was actually fired before it was released, but that was the movie that took me down.
Was it disaster? Is it more like a financial thing, or
financial
disaster?
Yeah.
Okay,
And it all comes down on you because you're.
Yeah, the buck stops with me.
Yeah, and so the investors or is that the kind of pressure that you guys feel like in this business? Is that you've got projects, you got to get them done, you got to get them on time and on budget, and if you don't, they're like
you have a little bit of a grace period. If you've had success before,
it's helpful.
You don't get terminated with the first failure, but at New Line towards the end, I had stacked up a fair amount of failures, so they probably.
But you still managed to land on your feet like extraordinarily well.
Yeah,
you've got to be. There's something there, right?
You got to keep moving forward. I'm going to quote Yoda in Last Jedi. Failure is the best teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
No matter what point in my life I get taught that lesson, it never loses its truthfulness. Absolutely. I'm great. I'm so grateful for my failures because they've made me a better person.
Yeah.
What film are you most proud of?
That's a hard question because there's so many. I've been really blessed to work with incredible filmmakers. I'm really proud of American History X because I thought it advanced the conversation on racism.
Big time. Way before it came around, right?
I'm very proud of the movies I've made with Paul Thomas Anderson, Boogie Nights and Magnolia, and now Licorice Pizza, which comes out this December and January. Very proud of Seven because it was this guy David Fincher's second movie, and he's gone on to be one of our best directors. But I think that movie is a classic. Captain Phillips, very proud of because it just celebrated so much authenticity and heroism on the part of.
Can I brag on that one too?
Yes,
Go ahead, have at it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if y'all remember the story breaking on the news. Do y'all even remember?
With Captain Phillips?
Yeah. When he was taken hostage.
Yeah. So I remember we were at the house. Mike was sitting on the couch watching, and I was passing by, and I caught it, and I was sitting there. I just kind of sat down, probably on the arm of the couch. I think I was moving with Skylar somewhere, and as it just, the story was, the news was just telling about what was going on. I turned to him. I turned around. It's like, this needs to be a movie. You better jump in this right now. He goes, I go, Mike, no. Seriously, this is an incredible story, and it's a true life story. You have to make a movie about this right now. You need to go, because lots of people are going to be trying to get the rights to this.
Yeah.
And so he called his producing partner at the time, Dana Brunetti, Dana Brunetti, who they had just done.
We did Social Network together.
Social Network, 50 Shades of Grey. Well, that was later on. But anyways, and so because Dana had ties in the...
he was an
ex-Coast Guard. He made a call. And then next thing you know, a couple of days later, they were on a plane to go out there. And then sure enough, so I'm going to take a little credit for that too.
For sure.
It was just intuition. And this is another thing about Moneyball.
All right, give her some applause.
Yeah. I'm going to get another one after this too. Even Moneyball, I have really great intuition that I'm going to brag on just because I feel very blessed to have it. But with Moneyball, it was struggling. And we were on our honeymoon, speaking of another vacation.
That's right, the first version of that movie fell apart when we were in
Yes,
Paris.
it fell apart.
You want applause for that too? We can do that.
Yes, we will in just a minute. So,
don't demean it.
So here we are in Europe on our honeymoon, and he was so stressed out. This was a Sony movie, and he's like, Brad Pitt. He goes, this is falling through, and I don't think Brad's going to come back. And I said, did he like the story? He goes, yes. I go, he's not leaving, and I know it. And I said, watch, he's not going to leave, and this is also going to be nominated. And then sure enough,
both true.
It came back around, and it was nominated.
Could have used you for that Warren Beatty movie, but I hadn't met you yet.
So is the reason are we each other's muse here? Like who's
I don't know.
Like it sounds like
I
it
don't
kind
know.
of
I wouldn't say
not a
muse,
but kind of like
But I will say, I don't know what she's going to say about, like, she probably...
It might not be.
I don't know what she's going to say about me. I may have to leave the room or come back another day. She may need privacy to talk about me.
We have this button, Mike. We could just do that all day when her answer.
Yeah. But I will say this about Angelique. She is relentlessly truthful and honest. Like, she's never told me a lie.
Yeah.
That I can remember or think of. And if you want an honest opinion, she is absolutely the best person to just go gut check me. And she cuts through all the bullshit, sometimes mercilessly, but you will get the straight story.
Yeah, that's
just rare.
Well, and it's probably good in a field full of actors and people portraying themselves not as themselves. Like that's probably a super important thing.
Absolutely.
True. It's true because that was I think that was another thing that attracted him to me is I wouldn't take his bullshit like some of his other girlfriends did. I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah.
Can I touch?
And I have some serious bullshit.
Yes, he does.
I can only imagine.
He does.
Let's just close all mics. Let's go to the bullshit. No, but back to Captain Phillips really quickly. Just a couple notes I wrote down. But how do you hire or rent out a aircraft carrier for the scene? Because
it helps. Yeah, it helps when first of all you have to send the script to the armed forces for approval. In this case, it was the Navy, and they approved it. Obviously, the story had a good ending for them, so we had their cooperation. And then if they're cooperating, they open up the doors, and they were great partners. I have to say, they really ran the Marine unit when we shot off the coast of Virginia at the naval base at Norfolk, and they gave us the 2 destroyers and the aircraft carrier, and basically produced that section of the movie with us.
That final scene when they take out the bad guys. I mean, Tom Hanks. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It's Tom Hanks. Wonderful to work with, like everybody thinks.
Not only he's the nicest man on the planet, and he actually, I'll never forget, his kids went to the school in California we sent our kids to before we moved, and he wrote a letter of recommendation for my daughter.
Wow. To get in.
He's just super, super, super great guy.
He is. And speaking of that scene when he's rescued, that I think out of all his acting career, that scene, like I could almost cry now thinking about it because it was so like intense.
Was crying.
I'm gonna cry
He actually
now.
brought the crew to
Intense. He
tears,
brought the crew
shooting it.
But that nurse, you guys, that was a real nurse, and that was her first time, and she just.
Oh yeah, now you're gonna make me cry because I forgot about that. Because what I was doing was going towards your work in horror movies, and I can't think of anything more horrific than climbing into that small little pod on an open ocean, or
it gives me chills on my face
with bad guys, and just whoa,
terrifying.
Yeah. Great job. We'll give you. Let's do some applause for that.
Thank you very much.
Great movie. We here at FORTitude, we approve of that movie.
One of the questions I think most people in the world who've seen this movie probably have asked themselves or asked others and don't know. Maybe you could help us, but Social Network, Zuckerberg. I kind of read a little bit about it a couple weeks ago, but it was a story about him, and he never sued, or I guess you guys were afraid he might sue. Or why? How did that dynamic work? Because obviously it doesn't put him in the greatest of light.
Well, we were always on the right side of the law with that project. So when you do a movie about real people, you can either, if it's based on sourceable, material that can be vetted, as long as you're not derogatory and defamatory, you have a lot of dramatic license. So we did Social Network really based on the transcripts of the lawsuits he was involved with his ex-partner, and as long as you don't stray from that record and what can be kind of vetted and sourced, you're okay. On Captain Phillips, we went and got life rights of obviously Richard Phillips and some of the other crewmen, and then with Moneyball. We made a deal with Major League Baseball, and they were the umbrella that kind of gave us the rights to all the people, Billy included. So it's really different each time.
Mm-hmm.
We have this movie, House of Gucci at MGM opening and Thanksgiving, based on a true story. And there was a book written. Same with Social Network. It was based on a book, Accidental Billionaires, and sometimes the book has been through a legal vetting. And as long as you stay in the confines of adapting the book, you're on. You don't need the person's cooperation or life rights as long as you're not being derogatory or defamatory.
What was your part in the Social Network as far as the advice to Mike, the brutally honest, keeping him in check?
Actually, I came in during Social Network. No,
you were there.
No,
for the
I was
beginning
there.
Of Social Network. I read the script in our kitchen. Actually, I remember.
Oh. I don't think I clocked that one at that time.
That was an easy one for Angelique. She just had to buy an Oscar dress.
Clock that one. That's a good way. Yeah.
Let's see. Upcoming projects. We talk about 12 Mighty Orphans just happened. It's no longer a project. It's
movie.
A reality.
Great
and it's a great movie.
Oh, thank you, guys.
How was that experience for you too?
Amazing. Especially it being a Fort Worth story, my hometown, which I absolutely, JW has heard me say this quite often. And I even had joked with Ed Bass about it before. Of course, he laughed, but I just thought, don't laugh. But I love Fort Worth. I think it's one of the best cities in the world, and especially to raise a family. I think we just have so much to offer across the board.
Is that why you guys came here? I mean, was it for that, or
this is home.
Yeah.
Fort Worth's home. Yeah. So, I wanted to raise the kids here because, I say this, Hollywood is unfortunately, always going to be a part of our lives, and I really just wanted them to be raised in a very humble setting as much as possible, and then just to have a kind of a real life, so to speak.
Yeah.
Living in LA, we couldn't really, because of the traffic, it's so bad. It's hard to go to museums, to parks. I mean, it's just stressful, and it just wasn't what I wanted. And luckily, Mike, being the great father he is, agreed to.
There it is. Yes.
Mike De Luca, Father of the Year.
You just answered our Fort Worth versus LA question.
Yeah, he just, he agreed to fly back and forth every week. And it's funny because when I first brought up us moving, and I was like, are you sure you don't mind flying 2.5 hours? He goes, Angelique, I will sit in a car in LA going to a meeting for 2.5 hours.
Literally, so I fly back and forth. Sometimes the trip from the airport in LA to my house or office
Longer.
takes as long as the flight. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I think
it's
there's
insane.
something to be said too about having your work far away. Like you can just get more done. Then that way you can go do all these dinner, like all these things, and then like there's a geographic thing that's already a barrier to where it's like not your choice. Like, but you're in town, Dad. You know, it's like no, I'm not. You know, there's something to that too.
Yeah,
you know?
I found that to be true. Yeah.
Totally. And then also, I think it's just neat. Well, I think for Mike, you know, just being in, you know, such a crazy, you know, high pace, stressful industry, you know, it's good for him to come to Fort Worth and chill.
To focus on my restaurateuring.
I was going to say,
Yes.
you probably
I
spend
could
a lot
never
of
open
time.
Delucca on Hewlin had I not been traveling back and forth.
You guys are
If you
going
wanna
there
see
for lunch
Mike,
today, aren't you?
Go to Deluca on Hewlin.
Tell him Mike sent you.
Yeah, I love it.
Have you found the balance between that crazy life and being here? You were able to turn the switch and be here.
And then of course the pandemic now, you know, has taught me, along with everyone on the planet, that, you know, you don't need to be sitting in an office from 9 to 5 to get stuff done. So it's, you know, if my schedule was flexible before, post pandemic, I think we've all learned that if you're in an office job, depending on what you do for a living, you can have a pretty flexible schedule.
Yeah. So you've been on a lot of sets. I mean, really excellent ones. What would you say about where you're sitting now as far as caliber of set quality goes? The FORTitude set that we've created here.
It's not bad. There's a lot. I immediately look at the catering. There's no discernible
I know
snacks.
you're picking up the empty coffee
I got an empty Starbucks.
I've been asking
it's a work in
for a
progress.
cup.
I'm not going to get down on anyone. It's a work in progress. I think when you get your food shit handled and figure that shit out, it's going to be.
We have Deluca
AAA.
from Hewlin catering in today
But
for
don't count on
lunch.
your relationship with
Where's
us.
We do
our
have jelly
pizza?
beans somewhere
Where's
else.
our pizza?
We'll float you for the beginning.
Okay.
With some garlic knots,
When
but
you
have
come
to
back,
stand on your
we'll
own 2
have it
feet.
together, correct?
Oh my gosh.
Let's see. Where we
12
go
Mighty
from this?
Orphans.
I like a nice
You gotta go
breakfast
back. 12
burrito.
12 Mighty Orphans. Yes.
We're so good about getting off track.
I
That's okay.
know.
Yeah, 12 Mighty
this
Orphans.
is so much fun. 12 Mighty Orphans. Oh my goodness. Okay, so another best friend of mine. He was kind of like my little brother, Lane Garrison. He was actually really good. Actually met Lane with Riley, through Riley. They were really close. But anyways, Lane was in town. They had just done a small independent film, and they were here for the Lone Star Film Festival, which, by the way, Lone Star Film Festival, you guys, is this week. If y'all can get out and
You're a
get,
big part
get
of
some
that,
passes.
correct?
I am. I'm on the board.
Very nice.
But anyways, it's going on this weekend, and then we have the gala on Saturday night, which you can buy after party tickets. So keep that in mind. Anyways, okay, there's my plug for that. But 12 Mighty Orphans. So Lane, he was in town, and we had gone to the premiere of Iron Orchard. And
Love the book and the movie.
it was good. It was good.
Movies.
They really did a good job. And he goes, "Hey, Angelique," he goes, "you know, we're going to be shooting another independent here in Fort Worth." And he goes, "You want to come and do a cameo?" And I was like, hell yeah, of course. I'd love to. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "I'll send you the book and the script." And I was like, awesome. So he, you know, right before he sent it over, he calls me. He's like, "Hey," he goes, "do you think Michael, you know, would maybe be interested in producing it?" And I said, he will not be allowed to say no because this is my hometown. This is a story about Fort Worth. So yes, he has to do it.
I came I came dangerously close.
I saw.
I retreated.
You're respecting it.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyways, you know, Mike said yes, thankfully. And, but, you know, Mike De Luca being the extraordinary movie producer man at that time, he had a few projects going on. So he asked me to be his producing partner. And luckily, speaking of learning at somebody's feet, I've been learning from, you know, from his feet, you know, for over a decade of producing and hearing everything from conversations to being there to, you know, so I knew exactly kind of what to do. And I said, sure. And on this on this movie, there were other producers and whatnot. It wasn't, we weren't the only ones. It really takes a large team to make a movie, which a lot of people don't understand. I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces with a lot of people that have so many different jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And so anyways, we had the honor of being part of this just beautiful, amazing story. And it's funny, I had a girl come up to me last night at dinner and she goes, I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing this, but I just have to tell you that I saw the movie and it was amazing. She goes, it hit every emotion. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, I will never get sick of people telling me that they love this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. I will get messages at least once a week, either text messages, Facebook messages, all kinds of messages, emails, people coming up to me. The movie was so good, so good. Oh my, I love it. I love it. I love it. It really affected me. Yeah. Yes.
Are you guys Jim Dent fans, the writer of the book? Do you know much about him?
No.
It's an interesting story. I hate to say
yes,
this,
and
but
you,
it's worth,
of all people.
It's worth, it's mentioning, but the poor guy, he's doing some prison time.
He's doing some prison time.
He's done, had like 10
yes.
DWIs, but he's got about 5 or 6 books, like Junction Boys and The Undefeated. He's done some, his writing is really amazing, and obviously 12 Money Orphans is one of them.
So in that, you have Luke Wilson, and you did bring up Bottle Rocket.
Yes.
So will you tell about that?
Yes. Okay. So you ready for this? So like I said, my mom, was the one always signing me up to do little background work here in the DFW area. And so she says, okay, this weekend you're going to go to Dallas and you're going to be an extra on this small independent film called Bottle Rocket. And I'm like, okay. So here I go off to Dallas and, again, just an extra. And next thing you know, I'm getting bumped up. And then I have a scene where I'm sitting on the couch with Owen Wilson and James Caan, which was awesome. It got cut, unfortunately. But, here I was on Luke Wilson's first movie.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, more, I'm his boss.
That's pretty cool. Yep.
I'm sorry.
You've restored the integrity of the applause.
My finger is about to get it's hurting because of so much of this.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Upcoming question for you both. Upcoming projects, things you're working on?
I don't have, I was approached about a TV show that I probably will do eventually. That's a pretty amazing story. The author, she's it's a bestseller, sold over 1 million books about nurses. It's called The Nurse's Story, and her lover was
Mario Puzo of Godfather fame.
Oh, hello.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes, and he wrote the script for her, and back after he wrote it, Spelling.
Aaron Spelling.
Aaron Spelling wanted to.
We only know Tori, the daughter.
Right. Yes. So Aaron Spelling wanted to make it, and of course that was during, Baywatch and this and that, and it just wasn't the right time. And he said, "Look," he goes, "my name is attached to this." He goes, "and this is going to be really important." He goes, "but you hold on to this, and whenever you're ready, then you can do something with it." And sure enough, she's a friend of my sister's, and my sister introduced me to her. And so it's something I can't do right now because I'm actually working on some significant projects for Fort Worth that I can't talk about just yet until the contracts are signed.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to definitely tap into this down the line. So we'll
does that
see.
happen a lot with like these pieces of work where they're kind of shelved for time reasons, or are there do you all have people on staff, not like your own personal staff, but on staff who are out seeking stories, like doing like the research folks just looking for these great stories?
Yeah, I mean at the studio we have a whole department of creative executives, that are in touch with that kind of grapevine about material and like who's writing a script or who's got a pitch or looking at books and magazine articles. There's a whole department that whose job it is to find and field material. And then smaller version of it at my own production company, we had a few people that were charged with bringing stuff in.
Yeah, but is this like gem of a find because of the way that it happens like this, right? Kind of through a friend of a friend or
I would say so. I mean, sometimes it is through, people,
personal
just
contacts,
personal contacts, but, like Mike said, when you're sitting, at a production office, you have the job to go out and either find a book or a script, and it can come about either way. I know Mike, that's one thing, as you can see, kind of through his past few movies, they've been true, inspirational stories, and that's what I think draws him, to those, and it definitely drew me to the 12 Money Orphan story, and it's because to me, it's life. It's what we've been through.
An art to finding that
it
kind of
is,
stuff.
yes.
I mean, we live in interesting times, so there's an endless supply of material.
Yeah, for
Right,
sure, for
yes.
sure.
Do you really believe that there is?
I do.
A lot of movie houses are making old movies new again, and it seems like they might be running out of material. That not the case in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's the case, but I've always liked to believe that there's never not a market for originality. So, if an audience is getting a steady diet of giant tentpoles and Marvel franchises, that's great. Sure. But in between those, will they have an appetite for the occasional true life story or just something different? So those are the spaces I try to fill in between when we have a James Bond movie or a Creed sequel.
Any new projects for you, Mike?
So the studio's coming off the James Bond release. That was our last movie. And then we have House of Gucci this Thanksgiving, Licorice Pizza, which is another Paul Thomas Anderson movie, who did the aforementioned Boogie Nights with me way back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then a wonderful musical adaptation of Cyrano de Bergerac called Cyrano that comes out.
Oh, wow.
Also
I can't wait to see it.
In January, February.
Is movie making better with all the distribution like Netflix and everything now, or is it like you like the old way? No,
I love the way it is now because as a consumer, because I'm still a movie freak and see everything and enjoy it. I love as a consumer I have it everywhere. I can go to the movie theater for the thing I want to see. I just went to Dune in IMAX.
Yeah.
Because I thought that deserved to be seen on an IMAX
How was
screen. I loved it. I thought it was moving poetry. It was just so visually stunning.
I'm a big Sting fan, so I can't. I wouldn't feel allegiance to it.
I hear you. I think that character may show up in Dune 2.
Okay.
You just like the blue Speedo he wore. You love the blue Speedo he wore in that movie.
Sting does a lot of psychedelics, apparently. He talks about that on one of these shows. And so I think about that with,
That's funny.
Saw the Dune, and then you go see James Bond in the movie theater?
Well, I worked on it.
The premiere,
so I saw it a lot before it came out.
Tell them about the premiere and who was there.
We had the
Bond?
premiere. At the premiere, it's in the Albert Hall. It was a royal premiere in the Albert Hall, which I had never been to, which was stunning. And then the royal family was in the box next to mine.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, so it was fun.
Did you have a word with?
No, I just stared at Kate Middleton going, "Oh my God, that dress is stunning."
Yeah.
That dress was amazing.
So what
amazing.
are you watching now? Well, both of you guys, like if one series that is like, I'm going to
Yellowstone, man.
Yellowstone.
That just came back
I am so glad it's back.
How did we know that wasn't going to? We could have guessed that one.
Yes.
It's everybody's
yes,
too.
yes. Love.
People in Hollywood that we don't know are great guys that are great people, great girls and guys. Who's the nicest guy? Who are some of the nicest people in Hollywood?
Besides Tom Hanks, because you already said that.
I've been a lot. I mean, the guy who directed Captain Phillips, Paul Greengrass, is a wonderful human being. Brad Pitt has been wonderful with me my whole career, and it was great to work with him in the 90s. It was great to work with him again recently. There was a woman, Amy Pascal, who ran Sony when I was there, who continues to be a mentor of mine. It's just a really wonderful person.
I can cue up some applause. It's almost like an acceptance speech.
Right, I want to thank
Jim Carrey. What's he like?
He is so big-hearted, like just a giant, sensitive, beautiful heart and spirit. It was great to catch him for The Mask and Dumb and Dumber when he was beginning his kind of ascent, and he was incredibly grateful and loyal to our studio at the time. And I just think he's unique and a tremendous guy.
I have to say, one of the nicest people that I met, it was at one of the after award show parties probably throughout the weekend or something, was Jennifer Aniston. So I'm standing at the bar, waiting to place my drink order, and she steps up right next to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, it's Jennifer Aniston. And because I have been in awe of her, of course, ever since Friends.
Wait, what show was it?
Friends. And what happened was actually Mike and I, we were just talking about her because he was mentioning how he was interested in reaching out to her to do I think a movie or something at that time. Yeah, there's some projects. And we were just talking
Friends
about...
too?
No.
This time it's personal.
There was some project, that he was like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to reach out to Jennifer Aniston. So anyways, so we were just talking about it, and then here she is. And, being so kind of starstruck, which normally I don't get.
Yeah.
And I was, and so I was nervous, and I turned to her and I just said, hi, I'm Michael De Luca's wife.
Name dropper.
But didn't even say my name.
Yeah.
Like, hi, I'm Angelique.
Yeah.
Michael De Luca.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went into this whole thing of like, I'm Michael De Luca's wife, and we were just talking about you. He wants to reach out to you. And she's like, oh, no. And she was so nice to meet you. And I think I finally introduced myself, but I was just like this. I was like, oh gosh.
How do you think guys like us would have performed?
How
given the same sort of
embarrassing.
That did happen. I met Wilco. I went backstage when they played. They played at these small theaters. They played at the Amon Carter over by the rodeo. And Jeff Tweedy was sitting there, and I was just kind of like, you don't know what to say sometimes.
it's
Do you still get that
true.
way?
Yeah, I get that way. I'm trying to think of the last time that happened. Oh, Roger Corman. I met Roger Corman, who's this legendary
Sci-fi writer?
No, producer and really like studio head for this independent studio back in the 60s. Like he started the careers of Ron Howard and Francis Coppola with low budget move, James Cameron, the list goes on and on. He's a legend, like an institution in film. And he came to it. We had a screening of we made a James Bond documentary, Being James Bond, about the Daniel Craig era.
Yeah.
And Roger was at that. I was like, oh my God, Roger Corman.
Did you say anything to him?
I turned into Chris Farley on that sketch from SNL where it's like, do you remember when you started all those careers of these guys?
For sure. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman, a good dude.
Such a good dude, yeah.
Do you have the picture?
Morgan Freeman, do not.
Oh,
God,
we had to.
JW.
I had.
We had a
Oh
fun
my gosh,
dinner with him.
that was
Yeah.
yes. We had a fun dinner with him, and
I'm just thinking
I
of
could just
iconic
listen.
actors. And
He is amazing.
the voice of God. Yes.
I could have sat there probably for days just listening to his voice.
Johnny
he
Depp.
was so sweet.
Got to ask for my wife. So Johnny Depp's doing that thing with Keith Richards, narrating the book and stuff. What did you work with him on?
I worked with him in the
Blow?
90s. Well, yeah, on two movies. On a movie called Don Juan DeMarco and the Centerfold that he did with Marlon Brando and Blow.
Was he hard to get to? He seems like is he distant?
He was so warm once you got to know him. He was just he was a mega star.
Yeah.
And it's really weird when that happens to someone because no matter how unassuming you are or no matter what family you came from, you can say goodbye to privacy, say goodbye to not having a uber scrutinized life, and and then they withdraw because they have to.
Yeah.
And then if you want to have children, sometimes you got to move to another country so your kids aren't harassed when they go to school and stuff.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys that, LA being you guys are around creative types constantly. I mean, is that hard? Does sometimes that get old, like the whole game, or is it like really inspiring? Like it just makes you want to do more and more?
I find it inspiring because it's really at the end of the day, storytelling, like being around storytelling.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about at the end of the day. You take away all the bullshit and it's just, you have a story to tell. Is anyone else going to like it?
Yeah.
I like it. Let's see if anybody else likes it. Like it's still that pure, the debate about doing something and it's a turn on.
Yeah.
How often are you in Fort Worth, Mike? So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's good.
How often are you here?
Every week.
I split the week, so I'm in LA Monday through Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, and I usually travel Thursday, and then I'm here with the family Thursday to Sunday.
Fantastic.
What about your answer on the creative types and stuff? Do you like being back here, kind of away from all of that a little bit? Or
I do. Well, I feel like there's, here in Fort Worth, there's so many creative types as well. I mean, not as much as out there in LA, but I do feel like
the Delucas.
I know
for the to use two C's in your name as opposed to our humble one C is pretty creative.
It's bold.
It's very creative.
Yeah. It's just pure balls. I mean, it's just such such
there on the
brevity.
edge.
Yeah. Is brevity a word? Is it taking brevity into bravity?
I like it. It's like truthiness
Could you
from
make
Stephen
a movie
Colbert.
called Bravity? Kind of like Braveheart, but with JW in it?
Absolutely.
All right, you guys, you both been wonderful for sharing. Thank you.
Oh, you guys too.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh.
Thank you,
Before
guys.
we go, we like to ask our guests. So, one at a time, though. Aside from familial stuff, marriage, kids, all that business, what's the greatest day of your whole life? You go first. Ian.
Oh my gosh, the greatest day of my whole life.
It's a really intentionally hard question, but we'd like to know if you could come up with something.
I know it's like ending with, is there a God? Discuss.
Yeah, right.
We'll be in the break room if you need us.
Yeah, we'll let the tape roll.
Lights will come down. Scoop cleaner will come in.
Yeah,
she'll still be-
yeah.
I don't know if I have like a greatest day of my life.
But by stalling, you're giving Mike time to think of something.
Yeah.
I know.
You're-
That's
it's
not
such an
fair.
advantage.
Mike, how about you? Would you like to go first?
And you said kids.
Without kids
Not-
and marriage, all the stuff. Any
Like-
familial
Okay.
affairs, just best day of your life.
Wow, to be honest with you, like where my mind goes is, so I'm in recovery, like I'm sober.
Hey, brother.
Congratulations.
The
Yep.
day, thank you. Can I have the?
Yeah, applause. Oh, for sure.
Oh my gosh, I am
Yes.
too. Like,
That deserves
we're
it.
going to let this thing run until it ends, Mike, on that one.
Even though you're supposed to, not rest on your laurels, and it's a day by day thing. They tell you day by day thing. But the day I realized internally that it was behind me, and I thought, well, this could last forever, is absolutely the greatest day.
How long sober?
It was just 3 years this October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yep.
All right.
That came without asking for
I
it, Mike.
appreciate it. Thank
All right,
you.
Angelique. Now you're on the hot seat.
I know. I don't know if I have a greatest day. I think my if it's not a day,
I think the day-
it's probably moments.
Finding out your mom is cancer free probably was right up there. Oh, you said not familiar.
Yeah, no.
But that,
You know,
I was going that
well,
direction.
Yeah, I think for me the greatest moments is when I see that God has when He's got my back, you know, and He's put me in certain situations in my life to prepare me for certain future situations.
It's a good, safe answer for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, because you're just like,
I don't know about safe, man. That's faith. That's a good
just makes
faith
you
answer.
feel so special, and knowing that, you know, I do. I've got some really great things to do in my life, and I see that God's been preparing me, and it's just really cool to see kind of those peaks come into life, you know.
So I got a volume in applause there.
Yeah.
We kind of gently. It wasn't a hard cut in. It was just a gradual.
It differentiates it.
Yeah, I definitely feel blessed for sure.
Well, Angelique De Luca, Mike De Luca, we appreciate your time very much.
Thank you,
guys
man.
have been great guests.
Thank
if you guys don't know,
you.
FORTitude FW on social media, you can follow us and you can listen to this in due time. But you guys have
Awesome.
been fantastic.
Thank you guys
Love
so
you
much for
both.
Thank you very
having
much.
us.
Thank
This
you
has been a
both.
lot
Great
of
work.
fun.
See you at DeLuca's on Hewlett.
You got it. Tell him Mike sent you 10% off.